Hey everyone, Lisa here, and I'm on my personal page because this is a personal conversation. I thought, like, which of my pages would I have this conversation? I have to be perfectly honest. It's about the vitriol I saw around Mother's Day and motherhood. And to me, that is the epitome of the divine feminine and the feminine codes that we have. And I just wanted to I know if you follow me, thank you. And wherever I am, in whatever conversation, whichever of my wisdom circles, um, I'm always putting it, especially out on here, a life school. For the most part, I've studied life sciences my whole life, very interested in people and life in general, the universe and this and that. And so, naturally I was led to yoga. And there's this concept of feminine and masculine. And I really took to that, but not because I think of life in a binary nature. In fact, I think in the grays. And that sometimes gets me in trouble. But I was looking at motherhood. I was looking at Mother's Day, conversations about Mother's Day, and I realized something because I'm in this goddess wisdom conversation. And I started to make a life school post, my life school 101 post that I put there, and the subject, mothering and motherhood. Hi, Shilpa, how are you? Um, and I realized there is a huge problem. There were so many women, there was just so much poison going on around the conversation of Mother's Day. And I get it. I get it. It's a very triggering subject, but I went a layer beneath it because it's part of life and it's obviously part of my goddess wisdom conversation. And it's something that we need to learn in life school. There were so many people that are so bothered by, number one was the lead up to it, lead up to Mother's Day, because some people can't be mothers in the way other people can be mothers. And there were a lot of people who get frustrated and were really kind of frustrated and celebrating conversations and posts about, not everybody has a mother that they're celebrated. Some people were abusive and this. I get it. I didn't have a very good relationship with my mother. I didn't have a very good relationship with my mother because she did not have a very good relationship with her mother. And her mother probably didn't have a very good relationship with her mother, and through the different generations. And one of the reasons why I do the goddess work I do is because the issue with women against women, this is what I saw yesterday. Like, part of the problem with feminism and that whole conversation is that we need to graduate to fraternity. Like, we've run that whole feminist, angry feminine thing. Like I get it. We didn't have rights, and then we got rights, and then we couldn't get money and power, and then we got it, and there was an anger there, but we need to evolve to it. But the only way we're going to get to fraternity is if we stop being so mean to each other. And I know there's probably some men here that are listening to this that, maybe you don't understand how it is. Like, how vitriol, how much poison goes in between other women against other women, and a majority of that is because of the patriarchy. It's because of the confusion about power and control and that masculine feminine, not because we live in a binary world and not because the blends of people are not important, but because they can't be seen. They can't still be seen because we still have women who are really angry. Other women had really good motherhood experiences. And that's what I saw. I completely get, and I've helped so many women through miscarriages and inability to get pregnant. And there's a lot of stuff we're doing to ourselves and society, and environmental toxins and things like that that feed into that. But I can tell you there's a lot of women who don't want to get off the track they are in terms of their busyness or the way they use their sleep patterns or the way that they eat, that they want to make the adjustments because why? The system doesn't allow it. But they also don't want to buck the system. And there's also a lot of people who didn't have good relationships with other women in their life who want to change it and should be celebrated. And we really can't keep getting angry at women who figure this stuff out. We really need to stop getting angry at the women who are happy. Like for me personally, I didn't really appreciate the feminine. I couldn't even have that conversation. I couldn't even get out of the lipstick patriarchy. I mean, I got to this whole women's lib or whatever, but I was in the lipstick patriarchy. I was pretty much in the patriarchy, feeding the patriarchy because I went and played the boys' game instead of literally took my girls' game into it. And it's not because it's one or the other. It's just that who I am. I'm born of feminine codes. I'm born of feminine codes and I embrace my femininity, but there wasn't a way to play that way. There's a little bit more now. There's a little bit more now, and that's great, but there wasn't before. And so I had to play the game it says that I've had to play. But honestly, until I had children, until I had babies, I couldn't embrace a lot of what my mother's view of her feminine power was. I couldn't understand that till I was a mother. And so I get how people are triggered. I get it. I get if you can't have what someone else has, if you've had difficulty. But literally, the one thing that is uniquely a woman's power in this world is in her ability to experience mothering. Now, hear what I said. I didn't say motherhood. I said mothering. And there is many, many ways to embrace the mothering aspect that all of us have in our feminine codes. Even men carry feminine codes, just like women carry masculine codes. Man versus woman is not feminine and masculine. The masculine and the feminine are two powerful forces of nature that blend in many ways. But we need to stop getting angry at people who embrace their mothering power. They may be birthing an idea in the world. They may make that into a multi-million-dollar company. They may never choose to have human beings coming out of their body. They may not be able to. They may have pushed it to the point where they physiologically are not at an advantage and they can't seem to pay enough money for people to put them into that position because that's just how it is. We can't judge those people. Nor can those people judge the people who have fully embraced that as their successful living in the world, who fully feel wealthy through literally giving birth to babies, maybe not even for themselves, surrogacy. Maybe they give birth and the pregnancy didn't go fully to 100% of coming to a fruition of a life that can sustain itself. Those are still mothers. There's just there was so much anger around. There is so much, but I really looked at it this year, whatever reason, maybe for whatever we've gone through, maybe the work I'm at, where I'm at personal. There's a lot of pain around it. There's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of misunderstanding around it. But the one thing I know is that we cannot harness the power of goddess wisdom while we don't resolve how we can deal with the fact that some women really do enjoy and have every right to celebrate their abundance in their mothering vibes. And again, it has nothing to do with whether or not they've given birth to human beings. But if they really enjoy mothering, that's great. Now, I'm not saying there's not illnesses with that. Taking care of people, being the healers, being the medicine women of the world, bringing solutions. All of that is mothering. And it's a healthy thing to embrace that feminine code within yourself. And if you are a human being that doesn't appreciate when other people are healthier with that code, have unlocked that code in themselves, and are living it to the fullest, then that means you need some support. I believe through working with women through pains and re-embracing those feminine codes and unlocking those in their life, in what their body's capacity is, in what their mind's capacity is, in what their soul's work is, however that comes out. I just 100% think that unless we figure out how we're going to allow people to embrace the mothering vibe that I think is a normal developmental stage without being mad at them for having a different experience with it, there's going to be a real big difficulty with really getting all this equality and non-gender conversation, non-binary conversation. You cannot be non-binary unless you actually understand the contrast. And it's not one versus the other as in a war. It's one in contrast to the other so that you can appreciate the differences and the similarities. But I just wanted to come on here and on my regular page and just bring that up. And I'm probably going to get some backlash for it. Maybe I triggered some people. Maybe people are not understanding. I'm not communicating well enough to some people. I really don't care. I just kind of conducting research at this point to see what you have to say. But there's a lot of pain around the mothering vibe around Mother's Day. There's a lot of pain there, I see. And that to me just shows the wounding of the feminine in general. The lack of being able to embrace that for all humanity. It's really not about did I have a good person in that role, a good parent who I call mother. It really is about how do I feel I'm able to mother myself, because sometimes, ladies, and I've had to be one of them, you have got to mother yourself. Like when you deny that code, when you haven't been able to unlock that code for whatever reason in life circumstance, and there's this anger and jealousy or frustration with people who have, you have to check in with that and figure out how are you going to heal from that? How are you going to forgive whoever you blame for that? How are you going to embrace that in yourself? Because you can't have a fraternity, you can't have equality if there's that underlying root of anger and disgust and fear and pain and triggering. And I don't know why. I mean, I've seen the conversations every Mother's Day, of course. I mean, I was the belly guru. I focused on the pregnancy year and fertility all the way through postpartum. I thought it should be a 2-year conversation. So I've seen the phases, but I don't know. This year it was different. And I don't know if it just was me or what, but there was a lot of people just really needing to hear people say, not everybody lied to mother, whatever. I get it. But the anger they felt towards people who celebrated Mother's Day just hit me a different way. There's so much anger around mothers. I mean, just domestic violence itself. The number one time it spikes up domestic violence situations are when the woman who's at risk says she's pregnant and is going to become a mother. What's that about? Motherhood knocked a lot of people out of the game with 2020 and working at home. There's a big conversation around mothering vibe. There's a big conversation around mothering vibe that I think is there and needs to be looked at in terms of this whole misogyny, women's inherent misogyny against other women. That's the conversation I'm having. I'm not having a conversation about men at all here. It was women. It was a whole feed of women so angry at Mother's Day celebrations. And I get it's very triggering when you can't be a mother, or if you had a mother that was not what, right? You have to ask yourself, what was she not? Because that's you having an issue with the feminine divine, because there's no other archetype. There's no closer, truest sense of just completely purest feminine versus masculine than the image of mother, the word, the archetype mother, the things that brings you, whatever that is. It's the closest thing to a pure end of the spectrum. And I'm just saying, if there was that much anger around people celebrating Mother's Day and how triggered people were and how triggering it just is, and people were honest. They said, I'm just sorry, I'm just sad, I lost my mother, this or that. Like, but it's a personal self problem. I just hope we don't get to the day where people start saying we shouldn't have the holiday because it's too triggering to people. Like, we've got to start realizing it's okay. Like, I have it all the time. I'm a her, she pronoun person. My work in the world is celebrating the feminine she, her version, not as much the they version. I don't have any problem with, I see that. I find myself to also be in the they conversation. It's just that I feel my work is to somewhat show the contrast, not for the factor of one or the other, not in a war mentality, but in the conversation of seeing contrast and comparison. You can't compare without contrast. But I get vitriol. I get messages all the time. I get people offended because I'm not using they or their or whatever. I'm purposely using her and she because that's my piece of the conversation. But it's in no way discounting or trying to disrespect people in the other conversation. I'm just saying I can't do it all. I can't do it all. We're all here for our piece. And what that has to do with the conversation I started having on here is that if some people's piece is to celebrate the joy and abundance they feel fully in that archetype, we can't, as women, we can't be mad at other women for fulfilling that desire in them in that way. But what we really can do is start saying, how can I heal and commit to somehow resolving that mothering vibe in myself? It's natural to want to care and give birth to something. All human beings should feel some desire to give and have an impact in a way that's nurturing and loving and caring. We're in a lot of trouble because we've denied that as important in the world. It hasn't made money as much, but yet it has. It just hasn't been recognized. Because for every 1950s dad that came home and put his feet on the table and waited for his dinner, that made him a better person to go to work the next day. But we're in a situation here in 2021 that was just very interesting. And I just wanted to have that conversation. Just wanted to put it out there. Thank you for listening. Wonder what you're thinking. Wonder what you got out of this, what your thoughts are. It's just very scary to see so many women attacking other women because they feel bad their experience is not the same. And I care and feel deeply for them. I'm somebody who did not have a very good mother experience. My mother died with me not having a very good relationship with her. But yet I'm still talking this talk because I see the need for an evolution. I see the fact that we need to come to some sort of unity on this. Ladies, our biggest enemy are ourselves.